Hi everyone, we are here with Krebs of Amitié. She is member at the International Committee of IFOTES. Hi Catherine. So Catherine,
Hi.
the coronavirus emergency has forced many countries to adopt severe social distancing measures, which may create isolation for many people. So, Catherine, we focus on the helpline, especially on Amitié, on the service that Amitié is doing in this moment of emergency. So, has Amitié adopted any additional measure to implement the service and to ensure the service during the coronavirus emergency?
When the confinement began, some regions were hard hit in France, and even some volunteers were sick. So the decisions to close some posts or others was taken very differently in regions. Nowadays, 1/3 of the posts are closed. And so we have to do in another way, because clothing posts, staying at home, meant a sharp decline of our ability to take calls in a moment where there was more need to answer than ever. So our team of volunteer technicians has done a titanic job in a few days. I insist because in SOS Amitié we are all volunteers. In 1 week after the confinement, tens of lines were connected at home. 2 weeks later, 450 lines, and for the moment there are more than 630 lines connected with listeners at home. These lines are dedicated to SOS Amitié listening. So thanks to a software, the anonymity of caller and listener is respected. Each volunteer signed a commitment to assure that they will respect confidentiality of the conversations, that's to say, respecting our charter. At the moment, more or less 70% of the calls are taken at home. Concerning the chat, it was being tested at home for several months, so switching didn't make any problem, and all internet conversation are continuing like always. I would like to point out that the National Agency of Ministry of Health, Service Public France, has associated us to government coronavirus telephone platform. So people who call to this platform, but not to us, are forwarded to us if they need some psychological care. Right. That's what we are doing for the moment.
Okay, so it was really a big change. And what was the impact of this change on your service and on the volunteers, of course?
SOS Amitié is a 30-year-old lady, and she was going to celebrate his birthday on the occasion of the next Congress that had to be held in May. This Congress has been postponed to next year. When I say old lady, that wants to say that there are established procedures. The emergency practices have shaken up these procedures, and answering the telephone at home, for example, was unthinkable before. Now, I said it, we are 1/3 of us are answering at home. People accepted installation, overcoming the apprehensions they have faced to the technique. That's for the telephone. Urgency and necessity allows all flexibilities. And for example, about planning, we have a greater freedom of planning. Listeners who ensured one time slot per week are are going up to 3 or 4. Another one returns to listen because he has 2 free hours. In the end, in some posts, the response rate has increased by 50%. Overall, there are less listeners, but finally, we take more calls than we do usually, thanks to this. About people, concerning the internal work and the relationships, we are forced to telework like everybody does. Our volunteers have practiced audio, video conference, and some of them has discovered it at this occasion. We had conferences for board of directors, for meeting with supervisor, and so on. That's one point. The link between volunteers had undoubtedly progressed because we were aware it was important to to strengthen the link between the teams, and we try to do it, and we probably will work much more in this way later. Regarding the new volunteers, our federation had noticed that an influx of candidates of over 150%. Yeah, these people will have to confirm. They will have to confirm the commitment. They will have to be trained. It's not for immediately, but clearly SOS Amitié and its work for emotional well-being, relief of distress benefits from the general impulse of solidarity that we improve in each of our countries. And we're very glad of it.
Wow, it's a very big impact. But do you think that SOS Amitié will consider to maintain this way of working also in the future? So could this be a structural change for your association?
The health crisis had led us to respond as a matter of urgency, shaking our habits, shaking some of our certainties. So for the moment, we are already analyzing the nearly 2 months experience that we had. And this leads us to consider developments, yes. The communication technologies have demonstrated their efficiency in this case, and have heightened the awareness that we have to integrate some of the potential of these technologies into another way of managing the tests. That's one point. For the moment, we will get out of the confinement progressively. We don't know what can still happen. For the moment, posts will all open, but all volunteers will not be able to return, not all of them. So number of calls will not decrease, and we have to respond, to answer. So the current system, therefore, will be extended more or less for the months coming.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Of course.
I wanted to say something else, sorry. When will come the time of assessment, we think we will have debates, hypotheses, choices to do, and we will manage it, I think so, by a wide national consultation of our volunteers, keeping in mind our charter and our ethics, of course. 2020 will undoubtedly be a date in the history of our association concerning the practical conditions of listening, probably towards a greater flexibility, I think. We hope also that a new flexibility will give us a chance to recruit new volunteers, and especially people still in professional activity and young people. And we hope this increase of candidates will go this way.
Okay, of course. And going back to the calls, what kind of calls do you receive in this period?
About number of calls first. The 2 first weeks we had a decrease of calls, but then we had more calls than before. As I said, we are less listener, but we take more calls. The increase of taking calls is of 28%, so we are glad of this. Regarding calls concerning coronavirus, we currently a third of the calls are talking about COVID-19. Most of them about the way people live the confinement. We have made a remarkable and worrying observation, because we have noticed that this last 6 weeks we had 550 calls mentioning suicidal thought. In a normal week, we have 100 calls. In 1 week, from 100 to 550, that's more than 5 times more. In the same week, we counted 56 callers committing suicide, which is a huge and very terrific number.
Okay. This is also very interesting, the development of the kind of calls that you are receiving during this period. And who are the people calling? What kind of feelings do they express?
We have more new callers than usual. People who are cut off from their usual relationships. Professional, neighborhood, family. They take a new measure of their loneliness for those who are lonely. Over time, they no longer cope with it. They express it with distress, even sometimes screaming, literally. Sometimes they express anger also. Few express fear from illness or death. Many are talking about confinement and mostly about fear of the future. The other callers know us, and vice versa. There are isolated people already distressed before the crisis, or people with mental illnesses. A volunteer rightly said to me, for them, it's a double punishment. The anxieties are exacerbated, the insomnia unavoidable, the depression, even more damaging, and the distress is growing for mentally ill because they can't go to their medical psychological center, to their psychiatrist. In any case, weaknesses are increased. I would point out another observation that we made. The existential questions are more present than ever. What am I useful for? Or I missed my life. All thoughts about meaning of life are very present.
So now, a few words about, we focused on the callers, we focused on the calls, but we would also like to know how are the volunteers, how do they feel in this moment, and how do they face this moment also?
Three things. They feel mobilized, confined, and aware. Mobilized, helpful, because they feel they have their place in this stressful daily life, where news maintain uncertainty, even fear of the present as of the future. They feel confined because there are the one who couldn't or didn't wish to listen at home. That can be explained. Everybody listening can be heavy, and you can wish not let enter this calls in your private spaces. So this one are not listening for the moment, and they are eager to get back to listening, especially because they are aware that with the social and economic crisis, when we go out this confinement, the worst is yet to come for the coders. Their professional situation may deteriorate from the point of view of employment, housing, financial situation, family balance, and therefore we will face problems of emotional well-being and even mental health more than ever. The listenings to come will be fraught with the imbalances and distress caused by the crisis. That's it.
Yes, of course, of course. Well, Catherine, thank you so much for your time, for the interesting information that you give us about the work you are doing, about what SOS Amitié is doing, and best wishes for the important service that you are offering to people in France. Bye, Catherine.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
Goodbye.